Hello, California Library Association. Thank you so much for allowing us to be part of your conference this year. We're the Library Marketing Department at HarperCollins. I'm Virginia Stanley, the Director of Library Marketing.
Hi, I'm Chris Connolly, the Library Marketing Associate at HarperCollins.
And I'm Lainey Mays, the Library Marketing Assistant.
And we're really excited to talk to you about some forthcoming fall books as well as some cool books coming out in 2019, our winter and spring list. So thanks a lot for having us at your conference, and stick around and watch the video until the end because we'll be raffling off some kind of cool prizes. So check us out. Thanks for joining. So the first book we're going to talk about is Bowl Away by Elizabeth McCracken. Super excited to have this book on our list. This is her first novel in about 20 years, and lucky for us, we're the publisher. So the book is called Bowl Away. And for those of you who don't know, Elizabeth McCracken is an award-winning author. She wrote The Giant's House, which was her debut, and that was a finalist for the 1996 National Book Award. And Niagara Falls All Over Again was 2001 when she won the Winship Award, the Penn Winship Award. So this is a really wonderful novel about a woman who we come to meet at the beginning of the book. And she is discovered unconscious in this cemetery set in New England. It's the turn of the century, the 20th century, and she's got nothing with her but a bowling ball, a candle pin, and 15 pounds of gold on her person, and she's out like a light. So that's how we get to meet Bertha Truitt, who we come to learn is this very mysterious person who doesn't really want to show her cards and doesn't really want to tell too much about her past. But she opens a candlepin bowling alley, and this is this multi-generational sweeping story that covers both world wars and the Great Depression, and you learn a great deal about America at that time. And seen through these very colorful characters in this book, Bowl Away. And I'm not giving anything away by saying that when Bertha dies, a son who they'd never heard of before comes into their lives, and it's all now about family inheritance. And so this is really very funny, very quirky, but very informative. She's done a ton of research on this book. And the pages just fly because you can't wait to see what happens next. And all about candlepin bowling, which I didn't really know too much about. So I learned a lot from this book too. But she really was the central figure in this town and just became this sort of mysterious person, kind of quirky, and then has this history that comes to light after she passes away. And so that is the crux of Bowl Away. So we're also simultaneously re-releasing her debut story collection, Here's Your Hat, What's Your Hurry? So that's Echo is the publisher, the imprint for this book, and that's their Art of the Story series. So anyway, lots of Elizabeth McCracken coming your way, and so get cracking. Start reading that book. All right, thank you very much. Next, who's next?
I'm next. Hello, I will be talking about Free Fall by Jessica Barry. This is a debut thriller, very much in the vein of Sunburn by Laura Lippman, The Woman in the Window by A.J. Finn. You might have heard of that book. All the Missing Girls, The Perfect Mother. And it, at its core, is an exploration of this mother-daughter, this fractured mother-daughter relationship. But it starts with a plane crash. This young woman, Allison Carpenter, her plane, this private plane, crashes in the Colorado Rockies. She's with her kind of mysterious boyfriend, significant other, but she's the only one that survives. And these first pages explore Allison as she's surveying this crash, how she survived. She's in the wilderness. She doesn't know what she needs, supplies, the next move. And what you assume is she's preparing to be rescued. But what really happens is she gathers these supplies and then runs off into the wilderness and is very keen to not be found. And you were wondering, what secrets does she hold that she would not want to be found after such a near-death experience? And you find out she's wanted by very powerful men. And then when her mother, who she does not speak with, receives news that her daughter is presumed dead, She doesn't believe it, and she sets off to find out what happened to Alice and what happened to her daughter. So it's, again, a page-turner, very fast-paced, but has a lot of depth because you explore what happened between this mother and daughter and why are they so estranged. And with all these books, we explored, what's the tie to California, if there is one. In this case, Allison Carpenter, the daughter, lived in California. So it's not a huge connection, but it is a connection. But even despite that, it's just a wonderful, really, really strong debut thriller. It's coming January 8th. So that's Freefall by Jessica Barry.
So the next book is American Pop by Snowden Wright. And this, when I say epic tale, it really is. It's an epic. It's about a family in Mississippi. They live in Panola County, and they own the Panola Cola soda fortune. So it
Say that 3 times fast.
Panola County. Can't even say it. So the Forsters, it starts out as an immigrant family. They come to Mississippi, and then you have 4 generations, and it goes through all of the children, all of the grandchildren, and kind of the rise and fall of this empire that their father made. And so it's got a lot of nature and a lot of crumbling South, but it doesn't just take place in the South. It goes through New York and even in France and Europe. So it really, you don't have to enjoy just learning about the South. It's everywhere. And it kind of is a tale of America in general. It kind of falls back on the nostalgia we feel, especially, I mean, it's not saying that it's Coca-Cola and Pepsi, but a lot of that's pulled in there. And a lot of true history. Snowden really kind of pulls into like a fake biography, which is really cool. So he takes quotes and puts Panola Cola into it. Snowden's from Mississippi. He lived outside in New York City for several years, but he went back. His grandfather left him a little inheritance, and he went back and wanted to write a novel. So he lived in a cottage and just alone. And he wrote this book. And he said he went back home to kind of like, he thinks of it as like an ex. He went back to his ex, and he learned why he loved it, and he went home to chase a tale. And so he got to see all this family heirlooms around him and kind of create a tale of what he thinks, good and bad, what the South is about. And so it was actually a Glow Galley Love of the Week pick for Shelf Awareness in the last few weeks. There's a great behind the book on Edelweiss. He's just a great writer. I'm really excited about this book. And you can really tell in that piece alone just how he came to write this. It's got, I think of it kind of Faulknerian. It's very kind of, like I said, crumbling South, and these people trying to be so above everybody, but really everything's falling. So that's American Pop by Snowden Wright.
So anybody can go on Edelweiss, look up the book, and there you'll see the behind the book piece. And I love when Harper puts those in because we learn a lot about just like, sort of curious and interesting stories, little tidbits of what informed the author on how to write this book or why they wrote the book. So I love those. So I always find them really interesting. There's, just as a side note, we have a book coming out called November Road by Lou Burney, which is a fan. We're fans of this book, big fans. And he has a wonderful behind the book piece on Edelweiss. So check it out. And anybody can go on there and just click on the book and then look for the behind the book piece, and that's a really sweet story.
Okay. So I think I'm next, but we don't have the book in front of us, but I have a picture of the cover for you guys. So this is Parkland by Dave Cullen. As you know, Dave Cullen is the journalist who covered Columbine. So he wasn't going to write another story about school shootings. He suffered from 2 bouts of secondary PTSD after that. And he decided no more, like he couldn't deal with it. And it's just the tragedy of it all because he was on the scene right when it happened. And he got to see all of the disaster. But when he went to Parkland to visit, he kind of came upon this kind of homage to all the students and everything that happened. And he was overwhelmed, so he wanted to write about it. And he really enjoyed seeing the children kind of come together and really fight against. It wasn't the story of the killer or the person who did the shootings. It was the story of the survivors and the people that he made go away. So it's insane. He's got so much media coverage for this book. I think it's going to be good. I love this cover image. It's gorgeous. So Dave Cullen, it's coming out in February.
Let's see. I think I'm up now. Yes.
You are up.
All right, let me give this a whirl. So I will be talking about The Last Romantics by Tara Conklin. You'll know Tara from The House Girl, her debut. It was a New York Times bestseller in both hardcover and paperback. She's just a critically lauded author, and we're particularly excited about The Last Romantics. It's our lead read pick for winter of 2019. The lead read program is a program within our sales staff where we vote on one title each season across all of HarperCollins releases that we think has the best chance for both critical and commercial success, and we really want to blow it out in a special way. So you'll know that from Cynthia D'Apri-Sweeney's The Nest, News of the World by Paulette Giles, Magpie Murders, Anthony Horowitz, Women in the Castle by Jessica Shattuck. The list goes on and on. November Road, Lou Berney, which we mentioned earlier. So a big time novel for us. And I mentioned The Nest, Cynthia D'Apri-Sweeney. This is very much for fans of that novel. It's an exploration of family and kind of the changing definition as you grow older and your perspective changes, particularly of events that take place when you're a child. Also for fans of Commonwealth by Ann Patchett. And again, this centers around 4 siblings specifically, and their story told through one of the siblings, Fiona Skinner. She's a renowned poet, and she's being interviewed, and she asks about kind of the inspiration behind one of her most famous poems, and she tells the story of her family, beginning in this one hot summer when they were all children. It's called The Pause, where all these strange things were happening within their small community in Connecticut. And then 2 decades later, when they're grown and certain revelations come out that changes their relationships and everything they thought about their family. But it's epic but very intimate at the same time, just written with a lot of poise and wisdom. It's a beautiful novel. Some really passionate in-house reads for this, and I think it's going to be a big deal. It's coming February 19th. So that's The Last Romantics by Tara Conklin. And I'm still here and I'm still up, so I'm going to tell you about another novel. We have a new standalone novel by Greg Iles, Cemetery Road. So here is Greg. We haven't released the jacket yet. I might have seen a peek of it, and it's beautiful. So when we do the official cover reveal, keep your eyes open. It's going to be worth the wait. So Cemetery Road, again, is a standalone novel. Greg wrote the Natchez Burning trilogy. He's a #1 New York Times bestselling author. And with this novel, it still takes place in the South and deals with some of the themes that the Natchez Burning trilogy dealt with, but follows a young guy. His name's Marshall, and he left town decades ago and became a renowned journalist. And he's returning home to the South to explore what begins as just one single crime that might have implications, further-reaching implications, but then a significant member of the community is also murdered while he's exploring this. And so now he's kind of in the midst of these 2 crimes that might be related, and they have implications that might reach all the way to Washington, D.C. So, but he also is just a propulsive, gritty writer who's renowned, and rightfully so. I mean, it's just, they're all brilliant novels, big novels, and this will be as well, but again, it's a standalone, so it's a great place to start with Greg Iles, and then you want to go back and read all the Natchez Burning trilogy as well. So a little bit of a wait for this one. It's coming March 19th. That's Cemetery Road by Greg Iles. I also met him, I think it might have been TLA, Texas Library Association. He came, and he's just a genuinely cool cat. I really liked him. He's really smart and just charismatic. He's really cool. So for that reason alone, check out the book.
I have Damon Young's book, What Doesn't Kill You Makes You Blacker, a memoir in essays. This author is the co-founder and editor-in-chief of Very Smart Brothers, VSB. And I was quite taken with, I've looked at this site several times now, and just the other day, he wrote a piece about the Serena Williams debacle, and I encourage you all to go and check this out. This is a very timely and very. This is a very timely topic, and his book is about growing up black, and it's at times brutal and at times funny. He has been a reporter. He's written for GQ. He's written for the Times. There's a terrific piece on the Times that came out in June. What it's like to live as a black man in this world, and knee-jerk reactions to everything. How he navigates his way through this world as a black man. Michael Eric Dyson has a great quote about this book. He says, Damon Young is one of the most important young voices in humor writing today, simultaneously providing racial love for the spectacular idiosyncrasies of blackness and a devastatingly funny critique of racism. Damon is the antidote to what ails this nation for the non-literal minded. His work crosses gender and race. He gets 3.5 million hits a month. It's roughly 50-50 black and white readership, more women than men, which I think is very interesting. And as I said, it's just this memoir and essays about shifting. We did a book once called Shifting. It's about shifting through life as a black male. I just want to read this one part to you in the first paragraph of the summary that we have here, our working document here about this book. He's existing while black is an extreme sport. The act of possessing black skin while searching for space to breathe in America is enough to induce a ceaseless state of angst, where questions such as, how should I react here as a professional black person, and will this white person's potato salad kill me, are forever relevant. So you can see that there's light and there's real heft here, and I think he finds a great balance. And the thing is that this is his voice. I am clearly not a black male, and I was completely sucked into this Very Smart Brothers website and reading the Serena Williams piece is really amazing, and there are others that are just as jarring and funny and biting and insightful, and it makes me think of things that I had never thought about. It's a really wonderful site. He's just got this very strong and powerful voice dealing with issues of race and masculinity. He's being compared to Richard Pryor, Dave Chappelle, Charles Blow, and Ta-Nehisi Coates. The editor likes to call him the male Roxanne Gay. This is going to be a major event for us. It's an honor to have this book on our list. That's What Doesn't Kill You Makes You Blacker, a memoir and essays by Damon Young. It's going to be big. It's going to be real big. Okay. Next is me again. Another nonfiction, which is mind-blowing as well. This is An Elegant Defense, The Extraordinary New Science of the Immune System, A Tale in 4 Lives by Matt Richtel. Matt Richtel is a Pulitzer Prize-winning New York Times journalist, and you may know him from A Deadly Wandering, which is the last book that he wrote with us, which to great acclaim. This is about our immune system. It's about the key to human health and longevity. He talks to a lot of scientists. He's written a lot of pieces on this subject, particularly in the New York Times. And this is the exploration of our immune system. And there's a lot of deep science here, but it is completely accessible. And I think accessible in a way, the way he portrays it through the lives of 4 individual people who are suffering from different maladies. And it all goes back to the immune system, and that's sort of the bouncing off point of this book. That's the framework of the book. It talks about not only these people, which are a cancer patient who's basically risen from the dead, an HIV patient who was considered a medical marvel, and 2 invisible women who suffer from autoimmune diseases. And I know people that suffer from these, and it is confounding because you can't figure this out. Why why are they suffering this way? What caused this? What set it off? I mean, he really drills deep. He talks about stress and how stress can bring these things on. He talks about a lot of the pop science and how, you know, people, consumers are sort of sucked into, you know, like antibacterial this and antibacterial that, and all these things that may actually not be the best thing for you, and could be actually breaking down your resistance to, you know, viruses and bacteria and parasites. So it's this great deep exploration. He's a smart man. He's a terrific writer, as I say, Pulitzer Prize winning author, and he's really done his homework here, talking to scientists and really drilling down. But also offering hope. So this is not, you know, this is informative, well researched, with people who is using as examples, frankly, and also offering hope at the end of this, you know, for our future, for our health and our longevity. So much in this book. This is coming out in March of 2019, and that's An Elegant Defense. So put down the antibacterial soap and pick up this book. Hey. All right. Do I have anything to say? Wait, I do. Sorry. I do have one really amazing quote by Douglas Preston, who is the best-selling author of The Lost City of the Monkey God. This is what he says, and I think that this captures it pretty well. It's a little bit long, but I feel like I need to read this. It's one of those rare nonfiction books that transcends the genre. On one level, it is a fascinating and engrossing account of the latest and quite astonishing discoveries involving the human immune system and how it works. But it's also a story about people facing mortality, about the passion of scientists searching for truth, and a meditation on death and how all of us struggle with the ultimate mystery. Heartfelt, moving, full of compassion, love, and human drama, this is a work of a writer of high ethical character who's grappling with big issues and deep humanistic problems. I highly recommend this extraordinary book. The author lives in San Francisco, so, you know, check back with us and see if you're interested in having him at your library. Please get in touch with us. That's An Elegant Defense by Matt Richtel.
Okay. Are you ready for the book that you didn't know you needed? It is not the final cover, so that's just a warning. But The Adventures of Barry and Joe. It's a graphic novel by Adam Reed, who is a writer and director. And he, after the 2016 election, decided they kind of need a release and kind of a little anger. So he decided to create an animated series of Barry and Joe, which, as you might can tell, it's Barack Obama and Joe Biden, who have the ultimate bromance. And I love it. On our sell sheets, it says the greatest bromance that launched 1 million memes. And it's my favorite way to describe this. So this is going to be a fully graphic novel. This is not the final cover. This is just some of the art in the animated series that's going to kind of come over into that. But it was a fully, like, launched campaign on Kickstarter. So he did everything on there. And this is all graphic novel. It'll be beautiful colored images. And it's really just a journey through American history, and they're going to be time traveling. So it's young Barry and Joe, respectively, and they're guided by their guru, Neil deGrasse Tyson, who appears courtesy of augmented reality that only they can see. Obviously. I don't know how else you would do that. So it says it's like a love letter to brilliantly cheesy sci-fi, but also to the two men that can still give us hope in the time of not so much hope. So I think it's going to be fun. There's a great video on Edelweiss. Like we said for the behind the book author video, you can just go down and there's a video of the animated series, so you can kind of get a taste for what it's going to be. And that's The Adventures of Barry and Joe by Adam Reed.
So much fun.
Oh, and if you're fans of The Onion or like Stephen Colbert, that's who you're looking for.
I just think it's really cute. And I mean, what is the announced print on that? Like 100 or something?
Yes,
It's like this huge announced print. Everybody that we show this book to just goes like bonkers over it. So we've been talking about this book for quite a while. I think it's going to be super fun. Another book that's super fun, and an author who is amazing, is Alifair Burke. And her next book is The Better Sister. Have you read Alifair Burke? If you haven't, where have you been? You must. She's amazing. This is her third standalone with us. So the other two standalones that she wrote, which are loosely connected, are The Wife and The Ex. The wife has already been optioned by Amazon for the rights for a feature film. And this is another one of these really sort of twisty psychological novels featuring really cool characters, and it's taut. She's a great, great writer. So she's a New York Times bestseller, and this is about these two sisters. So one, kind of type A, achiever, super achiever. The other one, not so much. So one was on the honor roll, the other one liked to have a lot of fun. She was really the opposite of her sister. She kind of floated around from job to job and guys and whatnot, but they eventually settled down. But they're not the best of friends, these two. They're somewhat estranged. So the type A sister, the honor roll sister, eventually earns a scholarship to an Ivy League school. She moves to New York City and has this great publishing job, just like us. Nicole, her sister, marries a young attorney, and she gives birth to a baby boy. But these sisters they're estranged. They live separate lives. Fast forward 15 years, and their lives are so different. The overachiever is now married to her sister's husband. What's happened in between these years? You'll find out. Now, it gets even more interesting. He's murdered by a masked intruder. And the sisters eventually have to come together and figure out what happened, because at the center of this book, they think that the son might or might not have something to do with this. So this unfortunate incident, this murder of this husband, has brought these two sisters together, and it goes from there. Which one is the better sister? Read Alifair Burke's book and you will find out. Let's see, do I have anything to tell you? No, just that she gets better and better with each book. As I said, The Wife and the Ex were huge runaway sellers. And again, it's an informal trilogy, let's say, and this is the third in that trilogy. These strong women, and some of them appear in other books, but it's a thin line. You don't need to have read one of the others to thoroughly enjoy The Better Sister by Alifair Burke. Love this writer. She's terrific. Oh, and her mother was a librarian. So, good rearing.
All right.
Okay.
So, I think I will talk. I will speak. I will inform, and I will entertain. I'm going to talk about The Huntress by Kate Quinn. You'll know her from the Alice Network, which was a Reese Witherspoon book club pick, a New York Times bestseller. It continues to sell, just a runaway success. And this is an absolute success as far as a follow-up goes, because people have been eagerly anticipating the next book by Kate, and this novel knocks it out of the park. It is, once again, we return to World War II like the Alice Network, and it follows multiple viewpoints, again, like the Alice Network, but it has a really, really cool kind of true life story that inspired it. So it follows Nina Markova, who is a female bomber pilot for the Soviet Union, and she's part of the legendary Night Witches, which was this all-female bomber pilot squad that absolutely terrorized the Germans during World War II. And that was a real thing. This all-female bomber pilot squad, the Night Witches, that's true. And I think that's so, so cool. So Nina is trying to hunt down this kind of really evil Nazi soldier called the Huntress, who is just kind of perpetrated some really horrible crimes, obviously, during World War II. And Nina will stop at nothing to get to the bottom of where the Huntress has disappeared to. And then you also follow a young woman, kind of a decade or two later. The Huntress disappears, and this young girl who's living in America has a new stepmother. And her new stepmother is very mysterious and has an odd German accent, and again, won't talk much about her past. Interesting. So this young woman, wants to get down to the kind of the truth behind who is this woman who's now living in her house. So it's really fun bouncing between these viewpoints. I know, Lainey, you read it and loved it. It's a huge follow-up to a huge book, and I think Kate's just knocked it out of the park.
It's got everything. It's got history. It's got romance. and kind of a thriller too. It's fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So all the fans of the Alice Network, this is, again, just a huge success as far as a follow-up. And it's a trade paperback. We're going to be publishing it in a library hardcover edition. And Kate, as a matter of fact, lives in California. So really for any of these authors, but of course for local authors, contact us if you're looking to do a potential author event. I'm always happy to look into it and try to make something amazing happen for you. So this is, again, The Huntress by Kate Quinn, and it's coming February 26th.
And we're announcing what? 200? What is it?
200,000 announced print. Again, the Alice Network still is just selling like crazy. So this is a gigantic book, and I have no doubt that it's going to continue the path set by the Alice Network.
The next book up is Old Baggage by Lissa Evans. Lissa Evans is the author of Crooked Heart and Their Finest. And if you haven't read either one of those, do yourselves a favor, and please do. I'm especially a fan of Crooked Heart. It's is a beautiful, beautiful World War II story, kind of like Paper Moon. I'll tell you about it in a second. And the reason I also bring that up is because this is kind of a prequel to that book. Now, you don't need to have read Crooked Heart, but you should. And this is about a woman who was a suffragette. She was a suffragette in Crooked Heart. So good, that book. So that happened. This happens first. This is about looking back in time and thinking about her days as a suffragette. She was jailed like 5 times, and she was just a big resistor, kept going back and trying to get the vote. Now, it's 1928, and this character, Matilda Simpkin, is kind of like looking through some old stuff and looking at her old possessions, and she comes across a club that reminds her of these days when, she was it was thrilling. It was just this crazy, crazy, wonderful time, and she was, right in the thick of it. As I say, she was jailed 5 times, and now she's in middle age, and not so much is going on. She doesn't have that excitement anymore, but she runs into an old suffragette, a friend of hers, who has committed herself to the wave of fascism. So this character, Maddie, picks up this cause and runs with it. And so that's the framework of this book. I love this cover so much. This is a wonderful writer. Lissa Evans is really, really charming. She's just a very, very funny, great characters, very authentic dialogue. You learn a lot, what can I say? This is a very educational novel too. So I don't know if there's anything else I want to tell you other than this is, the feminist movement continues up, and it's appropriate for now. It's quite timely. It seems like it will always be timely. So as I say, Crooked Heart, fans of Crooked Heart will recognize this character, Maddie Simpkin, right away. It's a prequel of sorts and will charm reviewers just like they embraced Crooked Heart. Just a wonderful, wonderful story. So there you go. Oh, you know what? There were a ton of reviews for this book in the UK where it was published first. I have pages of reviews for the UK version of this book. Literally pages, but I'll read you 2. One is from Paula Hawkins, who says, "There are some writers whose books you can't wait to get your hands on. Lissa Evans is one of those. Old Baggage is warm, tender, hilarious, and so clever." And Jojo Moyes says, "I loved Old Baggage. Such original characters and so timely. And it made me weep at the end." So they know what they're talking about. Old Baggage by Lissa Evans.
So the next title is The Unlikely Adventures of the Shergill Sisters, and this is by a beloved author, Bali Kaur Jaswal, and she wrote the erotic stories for Punjabi widows, which was a Reese Witherspoon book club pick, so I'm sure you guys are all really excited for her second book. This is the Indian version of This Is Where I Leave You by Jonathan Troper. This is a story about 3 sisters who don't really get along too well, and they are the first generation to grow up outside of India. But when their mom is on her deathbed, they go back, and her last wish is for them to go on a pilgrimage to carry out her final rites at the Golden Temple in India. And so they go back, and they don't really want to, but, it's the last rites. They kind of have to. And they kind of learn to get to know each other some more, and things come out in their past that maybe they didn't know about. This is going to be a really cool journey. Like, sisters coming together and learning more about themselves, but also the Indian culture as a whole. There's a really, as I always say, there's a really great behind the book. And in it, really, it was interesting to me to find out that she thought of the Me Too movement kind of in a different way, more of how it would affect another culture. So maybe in India with all of the thing, even in society, that's pretty rampant and everybody can see it even on the streets. So she wanted to take that thought of what would a contemporary Indian woman feel when she goes into the streets and sees this happening. So I think that's really interesting, a different viewpoint, and just some themes that are in it that she lists that might be good for book clubs as well. Domestic abuse, infertility, preference of sons over daughters, aging, modern arranged marriages, and the representations of race in the media. So, and she even says, I'll just read it because it sounds very put together. I also wanted to consider how certain hot topic issues, such as the Me Too movement or the feminist protest against gang rapes in India, have a ripple effect on 3 very different women. So it'll be great for book clubs and really about women finding female ownership in, even in a culture in America that's not, it's better in some ways in India, but still they're finding themselves here too. So this is The Unlikely Adventures of the Shergill Sisters, out in April.
I'm going to talk about the next Maisie Dobbs novel. It's coming in March, and it's called The American Agent by Jacqueline Winspear, a California resident, important to note. Here she is. She is amazing. Of course, she has legions of fans. People who always eagerly anticipate the next Maisie Dobbs installment. And this one has Maisie investigating a murder of an American war correspondent in London during the Blitz. So if you know this series, the Maisie Dobbs series, she's a beloved character. It's a long-running series, and each one somehow they manage to get better and better. And this follows suit. Again, it's coming March 26th, and we're also releasing alongside that a really cool kind of gifty companion titled "What Would Maisie Do?" So it's kind of really funny, but also helpful life lessons, kind of funneled through, the character of Maisie Dobbs. What would she do in this situation? So tons of, again, very helpful tidbits for your life to be more like Maisie. So again, they're releasing side by side March 26th. So a lot of Jacqueline Winspear coming your way.
And she is delightful. So yes, talk to Christopher about having her at your library because she's lovely. The Affairs of the Falcones by Melissa Rivero. This is a debut novel about a young, undocumented Peruvian woman who is living in New York City and trying to keep her family afloat. This takes place in the 90s, and it is about this woman, Anna Falcone, who, with her husband and their 2 young children, flee Peru. There's a lot of political strife going on there, and they come to New York City, and this is their story. They're undocumented, and they are having a tough time. She is indebted to a loan shark. She is also stretched thin, working at a factory. They're staying with her husband's cousin, and the cousin's not too crazy about them staying there too much longer. So there are a lot of things going on here, and she wants to make a go of it. She wants to stay, and but she's becoming increasingly desperate as the pressure builds. Her husband dreams of going back to Peru, but she has demons there, and she knows that she can't go back. It's beautiful. It's all about what she'll do to keep her family there and safe and try and survive. The author herself was undocumented until her early 20s, so she certainly knows what she's speaking about. And of course, this is a very timely subject, regardless of when this novel is set. The author was born in Peru, and she was raised in Brooklyn. So this is a beautifully written book, and we're excited to have this on our list. That's The Affairs of the Falcones by Melissa Rivero. Okay, I'm going to read this quick quote. Going back to this, it's The Affairs of the Falcones by Melissa Rivero. I have a terrific quote by Lisa Coe, author of The Leavers. And she says, Melissa Rivero writes about love with all of its beauty, fierceness, and complications, of motherhood and hard choices, the bonds of family and homeland, and the sacrifices made for survival and a better future. This is an unforgettable character and a necessary American hero. Moving right along.
Okay, so the next one is The 7 or 8 Deaths of Stella Fortuna by Juliet Grimes. And so Juliet is the associate publisher at Soho Press. So she knows a little thing about books, just a little bit. And this is her debut novel, and it is it's intense in the best way. It's such an intense story of a girl who grew up in the early 1900s in Italy. So it goes all the way back to when she's younger. It starts when she and her sister are kind of estranged, and a narrator is telling the story of their estrangement, but then it kind of immediately goes back to her childhood and growing up, and even to her mother's childhood growing up, because when she got married, she was really young. And so her mother goes into this marriage. It's pretty much arranged. She doesn't want anything to do with it. Terrible husband. It's the early 1900s. She doesn't know what's going on, and then she's thrust into this family life. So she's trying to keep her kids going, and they're growing up, and they don't have a father all of the time. And really, what's interesting about the title, so 7 or 8 Deaths, she kind of has something out for her. They say that it's a demon or a spirit that's haunting her, but she has these near-death experiences all the time. And so they don't know why, but she always survives. So she's a survivor and everything. And they say she got that from her dad, because he has his own crazy story going on too. But so the father leaves, and the mother is raising the children that he left behind in Italy, and they don't really know what they're missing. He goes to America, and they think they've kind of gotten rid of him, and then he comes back and moves, and well, he comes back several times, and then he stays, and they go over, and when they live there, they just kind of flourish in this American society but it's all up to Stella Fortuna. They get a house, but it's because she saves money. They get jobs because she makes sure they go to school. And so it's just a strong female character that's really exciting to read. I want to read a few of the chapter titles, because these are her deaths, and I think they're interesting. It's maybe not what you think. So, let me get there. So, Death 1, burns, cognitive development. Death 2, evisceration, growing pains. Death 3, bludgeoning, education. And it goes on like that. So it's got an underlying thing that she learns within it, but it's a death in its way, because she really could have died. And that's their anecdote. They always say, she's died 7 times almost. So she's really strong. And so through this multi-generational story, it is wonderful, and it's through Juliet's life too. She grew up in a tight-knit Italian-American family, and she kind of learned of her grandmother's immigration story. So I think it's going to have a lot of interesting Italian food and culture in it that you might not know about. It's a really cool story.
Super excited about that book, for sure. Another book that I'd like to talk about is Tiny Americans by Devin Murphy. His first novel, The Boat Runner, received terrific reviews, critical raves, a starred Kirkus. It was a coming-of-age novel set in World War II. This is totally different. This is set in New York State, the western part of New York State, in 1978. This is the book, Tiny Americans. Devin Murphy, by the way, one of the nicest people I've ever met. He came to the American Library Association years ago. And this is about this family, dysfunctional. Shocking. So we learn about these 3 children who grow up with their parents who have a very destructive relationship. They love each other, they hate each other, lots of booze. The father is a big drinker. But he's a wonderful father to them. He takes them out, he shows them nature, he explores with them, he teaches them. He's wonderful, but he never teaches them how to live without him. They, sort of like he makes them dependent somewhat on him. And eventually he leaves, and because he can't stop drinking, and he takes off, and they're left with their mother. And so there's resentment. There's they resent the father for leaving. They resent the mother for staying. What'd she do wrong to drive him away? All that stuff. They're kids, and so that's their childhood. And then the father comes back and sees he's straightened out and he's dried up, and he now sees, what the remnants are, what these adults are now. What did that childhood have? What effect did that childhood have on them as adults? And it's being compared to Boyhood, which was that sort of sweeping that film that showed you the arc of the boy's life. And so that's what this is like, except it's all three kids and the trajectory of their lives and what's lacking in their lives and how he feels responsible for that in some way. He's a really great writer, and his other book, The Boat Runner, was really beautiful. This is a complete departure and really wonderful. That's Devin Murphy's Tiny Americans.
Thank you again, all you California librarians, for watching us today. Part of our celebration of you all joining us is a special giveaway of California swag. So if you click the link at the bottom of this video, you'll enter your email, you'll be registered for our newsletter so you never miss any updates in library land, and you'll be entered for a chance to win all of this swag: the California state flag, this amazing Redwoods Forest poster, a puzzle, and some very handy drinking glasses.
A bear embracing the state of California, front and back. And there's more.
So, go ahead, click the link, enter your email. Good luck.
California shaped cookie cutter. You need that.